I do want to thank Chris for all the work he's done for this, because he's brought this out in the open.
Yeah.
And he's the only person I know that could talk me into doing this. I also want to thank my daughter Kara Page, who happens to be here, because my talk is more personal, and so it's telling things about her that maybe she had to approve in order for me to say them. So thank you, Kara. And I thank in absentia my other daughter, Abby Page, who lives in Ottawa and has kept me informed of the status of the F-35 in that city, because they have decided that they are putting a big question mark around buying the planes, because they decided in an article that she sent me from the Ottawa newspaper that over the life of a plane, each plane was going to cost $1 billion. So it's not just the initial cost, it's keeping the plane going and in the air as well. So I'm going to tell you a bit about myself and how I got myself into this. And by the way, I don't call myself grandma. My one and only grandson calls me Meme, and it's to honor my Quebecois heritage. So anybody here that's Quebecois, thank you. And it's pretty fitting that I speak to you today, because this is actually, this very day is the 41st anniversary of my moving into my house. And my daughter Kara had a big part in our choosing this place, because we knew when she was born that she wasn't going to be walking. She has spina bifida, and it's flat. So flat isn't something that a lot of people look for in choosing a place to live. But that was something that we were looking for. I also had taught in the South Burlington school system, and I felt that they would be welcoming of someone like Kara, who was going to be using a wheelchair, which did turn out to be true after some trials and tribulations. When she was born, I was greeted with that she would have to live in an institution, which sort of just got me fired up to make sure that that didn't happen. During this journey, I became a single parent to my two daughters, and our starter home has become our finishing home. But home, I think, is the underlying word, because it went from a house to being a home. There have been modifications made to the house over time to make it work for Kara, such as we had to enlarge the bathroom. This is all costing a lot of money, you know, Kara. We had to alter the kitchen. We have lower countertops. We have ramps on the front and the back. And it functions very well for somebody who has special needs, and I'll probably have them myself as I'm getting old too. This is something I could not afford to do again, which I think is an important factor in my staying where I am. I've put thousands of dollars into modifying a home for my daughter, with the thought that someday it might become her home. And the house has served us well, as has the neighborhood and the community. There are lots of folks who have lived around me and longer than I have. So 41 years sounds like a lot, but I have neighbors that I can point to in all directions who have been there longer than that. And as the rabbi said, it's a nice place to live, discounting the noise, of course. And it's starting to become a magnet for starter homes for younger people. There are a lot of young couples that are moving in now to replace the older folks that are moving out. And so, because it's affordable housing, it's hard to understand how the airport can buy up houses, leave them empty, and not provide housing for people when Burlington has a housing problem and has a homeless problem. There could have been a better way of doing that. I'm going to tell you something that's pretty personal, because I think it's important. In 2009, both of my daughters were diagnosed with breast cancer in their 30s. It's very hard for me to speak about this, but it has a point. I was totally devastated by this. And as my personal life was broken, the area around my home was falling apart, and I wasn't really paying much attention. I lost track of living as we were just trying to survive, and hardly noticed that people were moving away and buildings were empty. As the cloud of despair lifted and my daughters got well, I felt like my little area of the world had become Little Detroit, which is what we've been calling our part of town now. What had happened? I was feeling like I had become a bystander to my own life, watching as my neighborhood was being destroyed, one house at a time, families displaced, community disappearing. I was watching, waiting for something to change, voiceless and saying nothing. Then I attended a zoning meeting where the agenda was about the airport. I decided to speak. I think I was actually the last speaker of the evening, actually, because I was sort of afraid to speak. I spoke about what poor stewards the airport is of the properties which they purchased, and that they have no concern for the people in that neighborhood, or for the neighborhood, or for the community of South Burlington, actually. It's a business proposition. I felt like at that time that I found my voice. When I was asked to be this grandma for this F-35 group, I was at first a little hesitant. First of all, trying to realize that I really am a grandmother was a hard thing. And putting it out there that I am old was another part of it. Then I spoke with some of my neighbors, all of whom said that they opposed the plane, but they aren't saying or doing anything about it. They feel like this plane is the final act of bringing the wrecking ball to our neighborhood. What good would it do? We hadn't had any say in what had happened already, so why would we be able to make a difference? This energized me to be able to speak for those who fear being labeled as I have been, as was in the paper recently, that I'm one of those people who are against the F-35. Therefore, I must be against the military and against development. It has nothing to do with that. I want to be part of the process of making decisions about what happens to my neighbors and what happens to me. For me and many others around me, our homes are this is very hard to say, are our greatest assets. And we want to say in what happens to us. What I am is pro-people, pro-neighborhood, and pro-community. It's time to start talking about what people are for instead of what they're against. If this gets people to rally for what they want, what they own, what is theirs, then it is all worthwhile. I hope that people won't be observers of their lives any longer, as I had been, and will take part in this movement. In fact, I see a few of my neighbors here. Would you really be averse, some of my neighbors and friends and family even, to standing up here to show that you stand with us about this? I know you can't. I hope this is just the beginning. I'm hoping that we can do things like have a block party, all sorts of things to get us to stand together against what is not right and for what we want. Thank you very much.